The sky above Zira was a strange blend of violet and silver, streaked with glowing clouds that seemed to pulse with life. From the highest towers of the palace, Queen Irina gazed out across the desolate plains. The land had once been full of thriving forests and sparkling lakes, but years of war had left it scarred. Even so, there was beauty in the ruins, a quiet strength that mirrored her own heart. Irina's eyes, usually sharp and commanding, were soft today. Her mind could not escape the shadow of her missing daughter, Mira. Many cycles had passed since Mira had disappeared. She remembered the day clearly. The sudden attack from the rival species, the chaos in the palace halls, and her own desperate grasp for her daughter, before she vanished into the enemy's hands. Every night Irina had dreamed of Mira, wondering if her daughter had survived, if she was alone, scared, or hurt. The sound of the palace gates opening drew her attention. Irina's guards had not been expecting visitors, and her heart skipped when she saw a strange light forming at the gate. A shimmering portal appeared, rippling like water, and from it a figure stepped through. Irina's breath caught in her throat. It was Mira. Her daughter's hair, long and silver, glimmered under Zira's twin suns. Her steps were steady but cautious. Behind her walked a being Irina had never seen before. He was a human, tall and lean, his dark eyes calm yet alert. Irina froze, unable to speak at first, her heart torn between disbelief and relief. "Mira," Irina whispered, her voice trembling. Mira stopped and turned to her mother, her eyes filled with tears. "Mother, I'm back," she said, her voice soft but determined. "I am safe now. He protected me." She gestured to the human behind her. "This is Kieran. He stayed with me when I had no one else. He kept me alive." Irina's knees felt weak. She stepped forward, embracing her daughter with a force that spoke of months of worry and pain. Mira's arms wrapped around her mother, and for the first time in many cycles, Irina felt the weight of despair lift slightly from her shoulders. Kieran stood a few steps back, watching quietly. He did not speak unless spoken to, but there was a calm dignity about him. Irina's guards shifted uneasily. They had never seen a human close to the palace before, let alone walking freely beside the queen's daughter. Some whispered among themselves, their voices filled with uncertainty. Irina released Mira, her eyes scanning the human. You are the one who helped her?" she asked, her tone both cautious and curious. Kieran bowed slightly. "I only did what anyone would do. She needed protection. I could not leave her behind." Irina's heart softened. There was honesty in his words, and in a world where deceit and betrayal were common, that honesty was a rare treasure. She turned to Mira, searching her daughter's face for signs of injury or fatigue. Mira looked stronger than Irina expected. Her skin bore faint scratches and marks, but her eyes shone with resilience. "How did you survive?" Irina asked, her voice breaking slightly. Mira took a deep breath, her gaze drifting to the horizon as if recalling a long journey. "It was dangerous. The enemy lands were harsh, full of wild creatures and traps. Kieran guided me through the forests and deserts. He found safe paths and kept the predators away. He never gave up even when it seemed hopeless." Irina's eyes filled with tears again. She wanted to say more, to ask everything about the journey, but she knew Mira needed rest. The palace healers would examine her, and the guards would prepare her room. Irina held her daughter's hand tightly, unwilling to let go. The human, Kieran, stepped closer. "Your daughter is brave. She never stopped moving forward even when the danger seemed endless. I only followed her lead and protected her when needed." Irina studied him carefully. She had always believed humans were fragile, weak creatures, incapable of handling the challenges of Zira. But now she saw courage, intelligence, and loyalty in front of her. Perhaps she had underestimated them all these cycles. Mira led Kieran and Irina to the inner palace chambers. The halls were silent, the air heavy with anticipation. Irina noticed the subtle glances of her guards and the servants peeking from behind doors. News of Mira's return would spread quickly, and the palace would soon be alive with whispers. Once inside, Mira sank into a soft chair, her body finally allowed to relax. Irina knelt beside her daughter, brushing her hair back from her face. "You were so brave, Mira. I feared the worst every day," Irina whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Mira smiled faintly. "I had help, Mother. I was not alone. Kieran never left me. He saved my life more times than I can count." Irina looked at Kieran once more, her eyes searching his face for signs of pride or arrogance. There was none, only calm humility. She felt a strange mixture of gratitude and unease. Could she trust a human in her palace? Could she allow one to be close to her daughter? Before she could speak, Mira continued. There are dangers still, Mother. The ones who took me are not gone. They will come if they learn I have returned. Irina's heart tightened. She had feared this. The rival species that had attacked years ago were clever and patient. They would not forget easily. But Irina also knew that she could not face these threats alone. She needed allies, and perhaps humans could be part of that alliance. Rest now, Mira, Irina said softly. You have returned, and that is what matters. We will plan for the dangers tomorrow. For tonight we are together, and that is enough. Kiran bowed slightly to Irina. I will stay nearby to ensure no harm comes to her. Irina nodded. Very well, but know that your loyalty must earn the trust of my people as well. They are wary of humans. Kiran's expression did not change. I understand, Your Majesty. I do not seek power or reward, only to protect. Irina studied him for a long moment, then finally spoke, her voice steady. Then you shall stay, at least for now. But remember, trust is earned through deeds, not words alone. As the night deepened, Irina watched her daughter sleep. Mira's face, calm and peaceful at last, brought a fragile hope to Irina's heart. The palace had been silent and lifeless for many cycles, but now, with Mira back, there was a sense of possibility. Perhaps the scars of the past could be healed. Perhaps new alliances could be formed. Outside, the winds of Zira whispered through the ruined towers. The stars glimmered like distant fires, and Irina felt a strange warmth in her chest. For the first time in many cycles, she believed that hope could return to her people. Kiran stood quietly near the doorway, watching over Mira. He did not speak, but his presence was steady like a silent promise. Irina felt a cautious respect for him growing within her. She had seen courage in many forms, but this human possessed a calm strength that even she could not ignore. The night passed slowly, but not in fear. Irina allowed herself to feel relief, knowing her daughter had returned. Tomorrow would bring questions, planning, and perhaps challenges from those who doubted Kiran. But tonight, the queen allowed herself a moment of peace. She whispered softly to herself, Mira, you are home. And perhaps we will find a new way forward, together. And for the first time in many cycles, Zira's palace seemed alive once more, filled with quiet hope, the promise of courage, and the return of the lost daughter. The morning sun rose over Zira, painting the sky in soft gold and violet. The palace, once quiet and solemn, now hummed with activity. Irina walked through the halls, her steps slow but purposeful. Her heart still ached with worry for her daughter, but seeing Mira safe had brought a cautious hope. Today, Irina had a task that weighed heavily on her, introducing Kiran to the court and testing whether the alien council would accept a human in their midst. Mira had slept through most of the night, finally finding rest after weeks of fear and travel. She now sat in her private chamber, speaking softly to Kiran as he examined the map of the palace grounds. The enemy lands are treacherous, Mira said. They have traps and predators everywhere. If they come here, they will try the same strategies again. Kiran nodded, his expression calm. Then we must prepare differently. We will use what the land gives us. The cliffs, the forests, the rivers, they can all be part of our defense. You showed me the paths before. I can help the palace learn from them. Mira looked at him, admiration and gratitude in her eyes. I never imagined a human could be so clever. You think differently. You see things we do not. Kiran smiled slightly. Humans are small, but we survive by noticing what others ignore. That is all. Irina entered the room quietly. She studied them, noting the ease and trust between her daughter and Kiran. It was a contrast to the fear and suspicion that had filled her court when she first mentioned the human's arrival. She had known some of her council members would oppose this. For generations, humans were seen as fragile, unpredictable, and weak. Irina had once shared that view, but now she questioned it. Kiran, Irina said, her voice calm but firm, today you will meet the council. They will test your loyalty and usefulness. I warn you, some of them will not accept you easily. Kiran bowed his head. I understand, Your Majesty. I only wish to help. Mira reached for her mother's hand. They must see what I saw. He protected me when no one else could. He saved my life, Mother. They need to understand that. Irina squeezed her daughter's hand gently. I know, Mira, but trust is not given lightly here. We will take this one step at a time. Later that day, the council chamber was filled with tension. Orina entered first, her presence commanding silence. She gestured for Mira to step forward, and then Kieran followed. The council members, tall and imposing with their shimmering skin and sharp eyes, stared at the human. Whispers passed among them, voices sharp with suspicion. Orina cleared her throat. Mira has returned safely, thanks in part to this human, Kieran. He has proven his courage and loyalty in the dangerous lands beyond Zira. Today, he will speak for himself and show that humans can be trusted allies. The council members exchanged glances. One of them, a tall alien named Rethor, stepped forward. Your Majesty, it is not that we do not wish for your daughter's safety, but humans are unpredictable. How can we be certain of his intentions? A small creature like him could not possibly survive without constant guidance. Kieran looked at Rethor calmly. I survived because Mira led me, and I chose to protect her. I do not seek power or recognition. I act because it is right. If you give me a task to help your palace, I will do it with thought and care. Another council member, Valina, spoke next. We are creatures of strength and endurance. Humans are weak physically. What can he offer that we cannot? Orina raised her hand. Strength alone does not win battles. Kieran has already shown that intelligence, strategy, and courage are equally important. I have witnessed his actions. He saved my daughter through careful planning and attention to detail. That is why he stands here today. The council remained silent for a moment, studying Kieran. Some eyes narrowed, some softened, and some simply observed without judgment. Orina watched closely, noting the subtle shift in attitudes. Kieran stepped forward, unafraid. I know I am different. I know I am smaller and perhaps weaker in your terms. But I can think quickly, adapt to challenges, and protect those who cannot defend themselves alone. I ask only for the chance to help, not to replace anyone. Together we can make Zira safer. A murmur ran through the council. Valina's expression softened as if she were considering his words carefully. Perhaps there is merit in your thinking. Humans may see things differently. That perspective could be valuable. Rethor still looked doubtful. We will see if your abilities match your words. For now your presence is noted, but acceptance is earned. Orina nodded. That is fair. You will observe, you will learn, and you will prove your worth through actions. No one here will treat you unfairly. But respect must be earned. The council meeting ended, leaving the chamber filled with quiet tension. Mira looked at her mother. Do you think they will accept him? Orina sighed. Some may not. It will take time. But you saw how he acted. That is more important than their doubts. One day his deeds will speak louder than their words. In the following days, Kieran began to learn the ways of the palace. He studied Zira's maps, observed guard routines, and explored the surrounding forest with Mira. Every moment he applied the knowledge he had gained while protecting her. Orina watched from a distance, quietly impressed by his attention to detail and his calmness under pressure. Mira laughed as Kieran pointed out a safe path through a narrow canyon. You notice everything, Kieran, even things I would have missed. Kieran smiled. I only pay attention because it matters. Every small detail can mean the difference between safety and danger. Orina overheard their conversation and felt a stirring of pride. Humans were underestimated often, but Kieran's intelligence and courage were undeniable. Perhaps her people could learn from him, not just for survival, but for growth. One evening, Orina invited Kieran to walk with her through the palace gardens. The gardens had been damaged in past conflicts, but some areas remained vibrant, full of exotic plants and glowing streams. Orina spoke softly. You have shown bravery and care, Kieran. I admit I never imagined a human could act with such strength of spirit. My people may be slow to trust, but I see your value. Kieran bowed his head. Your words honor me, Your Majesty. I am grateful for your trust. Orina continued, her gaze on the horizon. Trust is fragile. It must be nurtured and protected. You will face suspicion and challenges from many who do not understand humans, but I believe courage and loyalty will earn their respect. Kieran nodded. I am ready for whatever comes. I only wish to help Mira and your people. Orina smiled faintly. That is enough for now. One step at a time. Meanwhile, Mira spent her days recovering and sharing stories of her journey. She spoke of hidden valleys, strange creatures, and Kieran's quiet courage. The palace staff listened, fascinated by her tale. Slowly, they began to see Kieran not as an outsider, but as someone who had saved their princess. Orina observed all of this and felt hope blooming in her heart. The return of her daughter had brought more than relief. It had brought the possibility of a new future where humans and aliens could work together. Kieran was the symbol of that possibility. As night fell over Zira, the palace lights glowed softly. Orina looked out from her balcony, the wind brushing her face. She thought of the challenges ahead, the enemies who might still seek her daughter, and the cautious council members. Yet for the first time she believed that courage, loyalty, and understanding could create a bond stronger than fear or suspicion. Mira rested nearby, peaceful at last. Kieran stood quietly, vigilant but calm. Orina knew that together they could face the dangers of the world. Humans and aliens might be different, but when united, they could achieve remarkable things. Orina whispered softly to herself, "Perhaps the future is brighter than I imagined. Perhaps hope has returned to Zira." And in the quiet palace under the twin moons of Zira, a fragile alliance began to form, a bond of trust, courage, and new beginnings. The palace of Zira rested in quiet tension. The sun had barely risen when Orina walked through the corridors, her gaze sharp and thoughtful. Though her daughter Mira had returned safely, the memory of her capture haunted the queen. Orina knew that the rivals who had taken Mira were clever, patient, and relentless. They would not forget her daughter's escape. Mira was in the healing chambers, surrounded by gentle lights and soft, humming machines that aided in her recovery. She moved carefully, still tired from her long journey, but her spirit was strong. Kieran accompanied her, studying the palace layout and suggesting ways to improve security. His attention to detail impressed the palace guards, who were beginning to see him not as an outsider, but as a capable ally. "Do you think they will come again?" Mira asked softly, her silver eyes filled with concern. Kieran studied the map of the surrounding lands. "If they know you have returned, yes. They may send scouts or use trickery to test the palace, but we can prepare. I have seen ways to make traps, diversions, and safe paths. They will not catch us unprepared." Mira nodded, her trust in Kieran deepening. "I am glad you are here. I do not know if I could face them alone." Kieran looked at her calmly. "You are strong, Mira. I only help you see paths that are safe. Courage comes from within you, but I will always be at your side." Orina entered the room quietly. She observed the two with a mixture of pride and relief. Mira had returned alive and well, and Kieran had proven himself not only capable but thoughtful. Yet Orina's mind could not ignore the looming threat of the rivals. "Tomorrow," Orina said, her voice firm, "we will conduct patrols around the outer lands. Kieran, you will lead some of the scouts. Mira, you will stay close and guide them through the safe paths you discovered. We must ensure that Zira is secure." Kieran nodded respectfully. "I will prepare a plan for the patrols tonight. We can anticipate dangers and avoid them before they reach the palace." That evening, as the twin moons of Zira rose in the sky, Kieran walked the palace gardens with Mira. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of glowing flowers. "The enemy will use more than force," Kieran said thoughtfully. "They will try to confuse us, to divide us. We must stay united and anticipate their moves." Mira listened carefully. "I have seen how they operate. They rely on fear and deception. We must not give them that advantage." Kieran smiled faintly. "Then we will be ready. We will turn their tricks against them if necessary. Strategy is stronger than strength when used wisely." The next day, the patrols moved out. Orina watched from the palace balcony, feeling a mixture of pride and anxiety. Kieran led the scouts through hidden paths Mira had shown him. Together, they set subtle traps to warn of approaching threats without harming the land or its creatures. Hours passed with careful observation. Scouts returned with reports of small movements in the distant forests, signs of enemy scouts testing the borders. Orina's heart tightened. The danger was real, but Kieran's planning had given them the advantage. During a midday pause, Mira spoke softly to Kieran. "Your strategies are impressive. You see paths I would have missed and think ahead in ways we never consider." Kieran shook his head. "I only pay attention. Humans survive by noticing what others ignore. You were brave enough to lead and I followed. Together, we complement each other." Orina, observing from a distance, realized the truth in his words. Humans and aliens were different, but their differences could create strength when combined. She felt hope stirring within her. Perhaps the old fears of humans were outdated. Perhaps the future of Zira could include new alliances and new ways of thinking. That night, Orina called a council meeting. "The enemy scouts have been observed near our borders," she said. her voice steady. "We must be prepared for any attempt to reclaim what they lost. Kieran has assisted our scouts with strategies. I suggest we incorporate his insights into our defenses." Some council members looked uneasy. Rethor, who had been skeptical of Kieran, spoke first. "Your Majesty, the humans are small and fragile. How can we rely on their strategies in a true conflict?" Arena met his gaze firmly. "Strength alone does not win battles. Intelligence, careful planning, and courage are equally important. Kieran has already proven his value in protecting Mira and guiding our scouts. We will give him a chance to contribute further." Valina, who had begun to respect Kieran, nodded. "Perhaps there is merit in his approach. Humans may think differently, and that perspective could strengthen our defenses." Rethor frowned but did not speak further. Arena knew that trust would take time. Kieran would need to show through action that humans could be more than observers. They could be protectors and allies. Over the next few days, Kieran worked closely with the palace guards. He helped them set silent alarms using the environment, created hidden routes for quick travel, and trained some scouts to notice subtle signs of approaching danger. Mira accompanied him on every patrol, guiding him and learning from his techniques. The bond between human and alien grew stronger, built on mutual respect and shared purpose. One evening, as they returned from a long patrol, Mira paused on a hill overlooking the palace. "I never imagined we could use the land this way," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "Every tree, every rock, every river can become part of our protection if we understand it. You taught me to see the world differently, Kieran." Kieran looked at the horizon. "I only shared what I noticed. The world always gives clues. You only need to pay attention. Courage and observation together are powerful tools." Arena, watching from the palace, felt her heart lift. She had feared the future for her daughter and her people, but seeing them work together brought a quiet hope. Humans and aliens could learn from each other, could protect each other, and perhaps could build a stronger future together. The nights on Zira were often quiet, but tension lingered. The enemy would not wait long. Arena knew this. She also knew that Kieran's presence could change the course of events. His intelligence, courage, and calmness were assets that her people could not ignore. One night, Arena approached Mira and Kieran in the gardens. "You have both done well," she said, her voice gentle. "I see the care and strategy you have used to protect the palace. The people may doubt at first, but your actions will show them what trust can achieve." Mira smiled. "We will face whatever comes together, Mother. I am stronger now, not just because of my abilities, but because of Kieran's guidance and courage." Kieran bowed slightly. "I am honored to serve your people, Your Majesty. I only hope my efforts are enough to keep Mira and all of Zira safe." Arena's heart felt lighter. For the first time in many cycles, she believed that the combination of alien strength and human ingenuity could create a future full of hope. She whispered softly to herself, "Perhaps the shadows of the past will not control us. Perhaps the future is brighter than I imagined." As the twin moons rose, the palace glowed with soft light. Guards patrolled the grounds, scouts observed the forests, and the air carried a sense of cautious optimism. Mira and Kieran walked side by side, planning new routes and safety measures. Arena watched from the balcony, feeling that the palace had become a place of learning, courage, and unexpected alliances. The threat of the enemy still lingered, but for the first time Arena believed that Zira could face it and survive. The combined courage of her daughter and the human who had saved her was a sign that even in a world scarred by war, hope could be restored. And so, the shadows of the past began to lose their power. With careful planning, mutual respect, and unwavering courage, Mira, Kieran, and Arena prepared for the challenges ahead. They would face dangers together, and Zira's future would be shaped by trust, intelligence, and the unexpected bond between alien and human. The sun rose pale and cold over Zira, casting long shadows across the palace walls. Arena felt a tension in the air, a subtle warning that the enemy had begun their approach. For many cycles, the palace had been quiet, but now the signs of threat were unmistakable. Scouts reported unusual movements in the forests and cliffs surrounding the palace. Arena knew the rivals were testing them, probing defenses and seeking weaknesses. Mira stood on the balcony beside her mother, her silver eyes sharp and alert. "Mother, they are close. I can feel it. They will try to divide us before making their move." Arena nodded, her hands gripping the balcony railing. We have prepared, Mira. The palace and the scouts are ready. Kieran's strategies have given us an advantage. We must stay united and calm. Kieran joined them, carrying maps and notes from the scouts. The enemy is clever, he said. They will use tricks and diversions, but if we anticipate them, they will find nothing they expect. I have set paths and signals to detect any approach. Our defenses are ready, Mira smiled faintly. You have thought of everything. I am grateful for your insight, Kieran. I could not face this alone. Kieran's calm presence steadied her. We face it together. You are not alone, Mira. Courage is strongest when shared. Throughout the day, scouts returned with reports of subtle threats. Strange illusions appeared in the forests, designed to mislead the patrols. Some traps were simple, some more complex. Kieran analyzed them carefully, advising the guards on how to proceed safely. Orina moved among the palace, ensuring everyone followed his instructions and remained vigilant. By midday, the first real test came. A group of rival scouts approached the eastern cliffs, attempting to lure the palace patrol into an ambush. Kieran, having anticipated this, had already set hidden alarms and paths for the patrols. The rivals were met with empty clearings, traps that signaled their presence, and guards ready to respond. Confusion rippled through the enemy ranks, and they retreated without discovering the palace's true strength. Orina observed from the palace walls, her pride swelling. Kieran's strategies were proving their worth. She had doubted the human at first, but his calm intelligence and courage were undeniable. Mira ran beside him, guiding the patrols and offering knowledge of the terrain. Together, human and alien worked in harmony, creating a force that neither strength alone nor speed alone could achieve. As the sun began to lower, Kieran led a small team toward the northern forest. The enemy may attempt a surprise from this direction, he said. We must be ready. Move quietly and stay alert. Mira followed, her eyes scanning the surroundings. I will guide you through safe paths. We cannot afford mistakes. The forest was dense and shadowed. Strange sounds echoed through the trees, and the team moved carefully. Suddenly, faint movements appeared among the branches. Kieran signaled the scouts to hold. The enemy had set a simple trap to test them, leaving false paths and misleading signs. Kieran calmly studied the scene, pointing out the correct route and instructing the scouts to avoid the dangerous areas. The rival scouts advanced, unaware that their efforts had already been anticipated. Kieran's quiet strategies, combined with Mira's knowledge of the terrain, allowed the palace forces to remain hidden and alert. When the enemy finally realized they had been deceived, retreat was the only option. Back at the palace, Orina met the returning patrols. You have done well, she said. You followed Kieran's guidance and kept our people safe. This is proof that courage and intelligence together can overcome threats. Mira approached her mother and whispered, The humans are not weak. Kieran shows strength in ways we do not always understand. Orina nodded, her heart filled with pride. I see it now. We must learn from each other to survive and thrive. Courage is not only physical, it is thought, strategy, and care. The evening brought a quiet pause, but Orina knew it was only temporary. The main threat was still out there, observing, planning, and waiting for the right moment. She gathered her council and Kieran for a meeting in the strategy room. The enemy has tested us, Orina said. They will soon attempt a more direct approach. We must be prepared for anything. Kieran, your strategies have proven effective. Continue to guide our scouts and prepare for their next move. Kieran nodded, spreading out new maps and markers. I have studied the terrain, the palace layouts, and possible approaches. If they try to strike directly, we can channel them into areas where our forces have the advantage. Our traps will delay them, and our scouts will give early warnings. Together we can protect the palace without unnecessary risk. Valina, who had grown to respect Kieran, spoke. We are fortunate to have his insight. His strategies have saved our scouts and prevented unnecessary conflict. I believe this is the first step toward stronger cooperation between our peoples. Rethor, still cautious, added. We will see if his plans hold under the true test. Observation is one thing, action another. Orina's eyes met his. Then we will face the test together. Every member of this palace, human and alien, must act as one. Trust must be earned and proven by courage. That night the enemy made their move. Small groups advanced from multiple directions, using illusions and decoys. Kieran's preparations turned the enemy's own tactics against them. False paths, hidden signals, and well-placed scouts created confusion among the attackers. The palace forces remained calm and coordinated. Mira led patrols with precision, moving quickly along the paths she knew were safe. At one point, a rival scout managed to breach a small clearing near the palace walls. Kieran and Mira worked together to guide him into a trap that allowed capture without harm. The scouts, though clever, had underestimated the human strategy and the combined knowledge of alien and human defenders. Irina watched from the palace walls, her heart filled with pride. Her daughter's bravery, combined with Kieran's intelligence, had turned the tide of this encounter. Even Rethor, who had doubted the human, could not hide his respect. When the enemy finally retreated, the palace stood unbroken. Guards cheered quietly, scouts reported success, and Irina allowed herself a rare moment of relief. Mira and Kieran approached, smiling faintly but exhausted. "You were amazing," Mira said. "I could not have done this without you." Kieran shook his head. "It was your courage that guided me. I only helped make the path safe. You led the way." Irina embraced her daughter, her eyes misty. "You both have shown me the value of trust, courage, and intelligence. Today, Zyra has survived not just by strength but by unity." The council gathered shortly after. Valina praised Kieran's strategies, and even Rethor admitted that humans could contribute more than expected. Irina addressed the assembly. "Today we have learned a lesson. Courage and intelligence, when shared, can surpass brute force. Let this be the beginning of a new understanding between our peoples. Let it be a sign that cooperation can strengthen us in ways we never imagined." Mira stood beside Kieran, proud of their combined efforts. "We faced the enemy together," she said. "And we succeeded because we trusted each other." Kieran smiled. "Trust is not weakness. It is strength. Courage is not only in the body but also in thought and heart. Together we are stronger." Irina watched them, her heart lighter than it had been in cycles. The threat was not over, but for the first time she felt confident that Zyra could face whatever challenges came next. Her daughter was safe, the human was loyal, and the palace was prepared. The night fell over Zyra, the stars twinkling brightly above. The palace glowed with soft light, a symbol of courage, unity, and hope. Mira and Kieran walked the outer gardens, planning new routes and strategies while Irina remained on the balcony. Looking toward the horizon, she whispered softly to herself, "Courage has many forms, and trust can create power we never knew. Perhaps Zyra's future will be brighter than I dared to hope." And so the trial of courage had been passed. Human and alien had proven that together they could face the greatest dangers. The palace had stood strong. The daughter had returned safely, and the bond between human and alien had become a symbol of hope for the future. The morning light stretched over Zyra, painting the skies in gold and soft violet. The palace stood firm, unbroken, a symbol of courage and unity. Queen Irina gazed from the balcony, her heart filled with relief and pride. The rival forces had retreated after repeated failures, unable to overcome the careful strategies and coordinated efforts of her people. Guided by Kieran and her daughter Mira. Mira walked beside her mother, her silver hair catching the sunlight. "Mother, they will not return for a long time," she said, her voice calm yet cautious. "Their scouts are few and they know we are prepared." Irina nodded. "Yes, Mira, but we cannot let our guard down. The past may be behind us, but the future is still uncertain. We must strengthen our alliances and learn from this experience." Kieran joined them, holding maps and notes from the last patrols. The scouts reported no significant movements in the enemy lands. "They are regrouping, but it will take them time. For now, Zyra is safe." Irina turned to him, her eyes soft with gratitude. "Kieran, you have proven yourself. Not just to me, but to my people. Your courage, intelligence, and care have protected my daughter in this palace. For that, I am deeply thankful." Kieran bowed slightly. "I am honored to serve, Your Majesty. I only wish to keep Mira and your people safe." The palace began to stir with activity. Guards patrolled the grounds, and scouts returned with detailed reports of the surrounding lands. Irina called a council meeting to discuss the future. "Today we have seen the value of cooperation and trust," Irina began. "Kieran, a human, has helped protect this palace through courage and intelligence. It is a reminder that strength comes in many forms. From now on, we will open the palace gates to those who wish to learn from us and work with us in peace. Humans and aliens can share knowledge and protect each other." Some council members exchanged glances, surprised by the Queen's declaration. Valina spoke first, her voice steady. "Your Majesty is right. We have witnessed Kieran's courage firsthand. Humans may be different, but their insight and loyalty can strengthen us. I support this proposal. Rethor hesitated, then spoke with a firm voice. We must remain cautious. Not all humans may act like Kieran, but if they are willing to learn and cooperate, they can become allies. Arena nodded. Agreed. We will build trust carefully, but we will allow for new alliances. This is the future we must embrace for the safety and prosperity of Zira. Mira looked at Kieran, pride shining in her eyes. You have changed the way my people see humans. I am grateful, Kieran. I could not have imagined a future where both our worlds could work together. Kieran smiled faintly. It was not only my actions, Mira. Your courage and leadership guided me. Together we showed what is possible. Arena watched them, feeling hope stir in her heart. She thought of the dark days when her daughter was lost, the uncertainty and the pain. Those days had passed, replaced by courage, trust, and the promise of a stronger future. The palace gates opened to allow human envoys to arrive. They came cautiously, respectful of Zyra's customs and curious about the alien world. Kieran guided them, explaining the defenses and the importance of careful planning and observation. Mira assisted, sharing knowledge of the terrain and the strategies used to protect the palace. The humans listened intently, impressed by the collaboration and the wisdom of their hosts. Arena addressed the assembly of humans and aliens gathered in the central hall. We are different in many ways, yet we share the same desire for safety, knowledge, and peace. Let this be a new beginning. We will learn from each other, protect each other, and work together for a brighter future. A quiet cheer spread through the hall. The aliens nodded in agreement, and the humans offered respectful gestures of friendship. Kieran and Mira stood side by side, symbols of the cooperation that had made this moment possible. Later, Mira led Kieran through the palace gardens. The air was filled with the gentle hum of water and the fragrance of glowing flowers. We have achieved so much, Kieran, she said softly. The palace is safe. The council is beginning to trust you, and the humans are learning our ways. It feels like a new dawn. Kieran looked at her, his calm eyes reflecting the soft light. It is a beginning, Mira. The future will have challenges, but we have shown that courage, intelligence, and trust can overcome fear. Together we are stronger. Arena watched them from a distance, her heart full. She remembered the dark days when fear and loss dominated her life. Now the palace was alive with hope, and the future seemed bright. She had learned that strength was not only in physical power, but also in the heart, the mind, and the bonds formed between those who choose to protect and support each other. In the following cycles, the palace thrived. Humans and aliens studied together, shared knowledge, and trained side by side. Kieran became a trusted advisor, not because of his species, but because of his courage, loyalty, and insight. Mira grew stronger, both as a protector of her people and as a guide to the new alliances forming. Arena ruled with wisdom, embracing the lessons of courage, trust, and cooperation. One evening, as the twin moons of Zyra rose, Arena stood on the balcony, looking over her people. Guards patrolled calmly. Humans and aliens worked together in harmony, and the palace glowed softly under the moons. She felt a sense of peace she had not known for many cycles. Mira joined her, leaning on her mother's shoulder. Mother, we have achieved so much, but there is still work to do. We must ensure the future remains bright for our people and our new allies. Arena smiled, her heart light. Yes, Mira, and with courage, loyalty, and careful planning, we will continue to protect Zyra. You and Kieran have shown me that hope and trust are more powerful than fear and isolation. Kieran approached quietly, standing respectfully beside them. I am honored to serve your people, Your Majesty. Together we will face any challenge. Arena looked at him, her eyes soft with gratitude. Your courage has changed our world, Kieran. You have taught us that even those who seem different can become the strongest allies. The night deepened, and Zyra glowed under the light of its moons. The palace was peaceful. The council united, and the humans and aliens had begun a bond that promised a brighter future. Arena knew that threats might come again, but with courage, trust, and unity, her people would survive and thrive. Mira, standing between her mother and Kieran, felt a sense of fulfillment. The journey had been long and dangerous, but it had brought understanding, friendship, and hope. She looked at the stars above, imagining the many cycles ahead, filled with learning, growth, and adventure. Arena whispered softly to herself. Mother's hope is alive again. Our people are safe, and the future belongs to those who have courage in their hearts and trust in their allies. Kieran and Mira stood together, looking at the horizon. They had faced darkness, danger, and doubt, but they had emerged victorious. Their bond was a symbol of what could be achieved when courage and loyalty overcame fear. The palace lights glimmered like stars on the ground, the gardens glowed softly, and the air was filled with the quiet hum of life. Zyra had survived the shadows of the past, and a new dawn had arrived, promising hope, strength, and a brighter future for humans and aliens alike. Orina took a deep breath, feeling the wind brush her face. "The past will not control us. The future is ours to shape," she said quietly. She glanced at Mira and Kieran, her heart full of pride. Together they had changed Zyra forever. The palace doors opened to welcome new allies. The halls were alive with learning, and the people walked with confidence. Trust had been earned, courage had been proven, and Zyra's future was secure. As the twin moons cast their silver light over the palace, Orina whispered once more, "This is a new dawn. A dawn of hope, unity, and courage. The world will remember this day." And so, under the glow of Zyra's moons, a queen, her daughter, and the human who had protected her looked toward the horizon, knowing that together they could face any challenge, and that the bonds of trust, courage, and loyalty would guide their people to a future full of light.